Hello everyone, this is 𝘆𝗵𝘁, as always, your host of the Universal Webinars. Today, the topic of our webinar is the mustering of courage and confidence, public speaking in theories and praxis. The speaker of our today's webinar is Dr. Henry E. LEMANA II from United Arab Emirates. Sir is a doctor. He has done lots of degrees. Here we are going with the short introduction of our today's speaker. Dr. Henry E. LEMANA II is a certified foreign language teacher by the Department of Education and Knowledge, ADEK, Abu Dhabi, the United Arab Emirates. He is currently the head of student progress in English Cambridge section of GEMS Education OOEHS. GEMS Education is actually a global advisory and educational management firm and is the largest operator of K-12 schools in the world, with a network of over 80 schools in over a dozen countries. In GEMS, Dr. LEMANA's job is to monitor the progress of students in English as a subject in accordance with the Cambridge Assessment International Education (CAIE), the world's most famous international curriculum. He also leads a group of teachers of English of different nationalities in securing the application of an active and high performance learning. Sir has hosted hundreds of events both in Philippines and abroad and has been invited to speak at various international platforms on topics related to communication, linguistics, education, and research. So, everyone, this was all about the introduction of our today's speaker, Sir Dr. Henry. And now I will just briefly overview about our today's webinar sections and about our proceedings. As you all know that we will have three sections in our today's webinar. The first one will of the presentation. Sir Dr. Henry will present his topic in front of you. After that, we will invite and welcome our guest, which was very much active in our previous webinars. That is our rule that who will remain active in our whole webinar will be invited live as a guest in our next webinar. So you all have this opportunity to grab this golden chance and be active to be part of our next webinar live. After that, 10-minute section of that guest, the guest will question from our speaker. After that, we will have the third section, which is of the question answer from you peoples. What you peoples, when you peoples will comment, question answer in comment section, we will get these questions to our Dr. Henry, and so Dr. Henry will reply and answer all of your questions. And what about the certificate? That certificate, we will provide certificate only to those who will fill the feedback form, and the link of feedback form will be provided in between the question answer section. I repeat, in between the question answer section at any time. And now make one thing clear, you all, they do not ask again and again for the feedback form link in the comment section, because we will send at the time which we have already decided. So do not worry, we will send. And one more thing, that when we send that feedback form link, copy it and paste it anywhere, because when this webinar will be end, that feedback form link will be disappeared. So what happened, you people does not copy that and you just leave it there and think that when the webinar will end, we will go on that, then the link that link then disappeared. So do one thing, when I send that link to you all, you have to copy it and paste it in your browser or anywhere else, that you may fill the form even after the webinar end, and we will shut that link off half hour after this webinar end. So just try to fill that form suddenly when this webinar end. So now, as I with my heart and core soul, I invite our today's speaker, Sir Dr. Henry, to take all the further proceedings for today's webinar. Sir, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sammy, for welcoming me here. And to everyone who is watching us across the globe, thank you very much for having me here. It is a matter of huge pride and privilege to be speaking before you today at this very hour. I believe we are coming from different countries and we're having different time zones. In fact, um, it's 3:05 here in the United Arab Emirates. It's 7:05 in the Philippines. It's 6:05 in Thailand. I don't know about the other countries, but everybody who is here, welcome and thank you very much for being with me. It is my honor to present to you my topic, which is titled Mustering Courage and Confidence, Public Speaking Theories and Practice. All right, there you go. So before I start with a lesson or lecture overview, let's take a look at this picture on the screen right now. Hmm. There is a person and he is standing in front of a mirror. Now, my question is, what's the connection between speech and mirror? Speech coming from, from the person and the mirror itself. I am presenting to you this picture because I believe this can tell us something about how important speech is in the life of a human being. Well, according to um, Cyrus, speech is the mirror of the soul. He is a popular writer in the past. I think that's 42 before Common Era. That's um, that's actually so old, but yeah, it still makes sense to all of us that speech is a mirror of the soul. Other people come to know who we are through our words. Well, everyone must agree with that. Other people around us will come to know who we are really as individuals through our words. Many different social situations, ranging from job interviews to dating and to public speaking, I should say, can make us feel uncomfortable as we anticipate that we will be evaluated and judged by others through the words that come out of our mouths. How well we communicate is intimately connected to our self-image. And the process of revealing ourselves to the evaluation of others can be threatening, whether we are meeting new acquaintances, participating in group discussions, or speaking in front of an audience. This tells us that speech indeed is a mirror. It's a mirror of one's soul. Therefore, public speaking in the 21st century is an art and a science that has developed over millennia, over time. In a world that is bombarded by information, the skill set of public speaking is more important today than ever. In a world filled with so much information, knowing how to effectively organize and present one's ideas through oral communication is indeed paramount. Therefore, everyone, welcome to this webinar titled Mustering Up Courage and Confidence, Public Speaking in Theory and Praxis. This lecture will cover four essential topics, which I myself have researched for the sake of delineating very well the topic I have chosen for this webinar, which is public speaking. So the first topic will be talking about the essentiality of public speaking in today's world, how important public speaking in this generation. Two, let's talk about the components of the public speaking process. We know how to speak, but what are the components we should be taking into consideration when we talk in public, when we converse in public? Three, what are the ethical considerations in public speaking? Now we know the process. We know how to set ourselves up before public. But what ethical considerations should be considered, should be remembered, should be put in mind as we go along the way. And lastly, let's talk about the strengths, in public speaking. This is very important because it is not just about knowing what to do, but knowing how to do it. So that's why the title of this lecture is Public Speaking in Theory and Praxis. We are making it balanced between what to do and how to do it. So let's talk about first the essentiality of public speaking in today's world. Public speaking is the process of designing and delivering a message to an audience that is given. Effective public speaking, on the other hand, involves understanding your audiences and speaking goals, choosing elements for the speech that will engage your audience with your topic, and delivering your message skillfully. That is effective public speaking. Good public speakers should understand that they must plan, they must organize, they must revise their material in order to develop an effective speech for what? For career, for education, even for personal life. So if we try to briefly answer the question, what is the essentiality of public speaking in today's world? Yeah, public speaking is employed whether in career, in education, or in personal life. This part from the speech of Slagle in 2012 tells us that in everyday language, public speaking is the practice of the speaker sharing ideas with an audience, primarily through speech. It is a form of communication that is embodied and oral acts. What does it mean? This tells us that our public speaking engagement actually is an embodiment of what we believe in. So we can relay our ideas, our opinions, our suggestions, our perspectives to a certain group of audience for the purpose of what? Say, persuading them, for entertaining them. By the way, we're going to be talking about different forms of public speeches in a bit, but at this point, I'm just trying to share with you that public speaking is found in every facet of one's life. This tells us that public speaking indeed is a crucial, is an essential part of human life. The three types of speaking in everyday life. We might be asking, why do we need to speak? No? Why do we need to speak? Well, there are different types of speaking in everyday life. Let's talk about the first one. The first one is informative speaking. One of the most common types of public speaking is informative speaking. The primary purpose of informative presentations is, of course, to share one's knowledge of a certain subject or topic or issue with an audience with the goal of imparting information to an audience. In fact, what I'm doing right now is a persuasive way, I'm sorry, is an informative way of delivering what? A speech. Informative speaking, furthermore, is integrated into many, say, different occupations. Physicians, for example, like doctors, often lecture about their areas of expertise to medical students. That's very important. And even to patients who should listen to their physicians if they really wanted to be healed from their diseases. Teachers find themselves presenting to parents. That's informative. Teachers presenting to students. That's informative. Informative speaking is a common part of numerous jobs and other everyday activities. As a result, learning how to speak effectively has been essential in today's world. Even, listening to news, that's informative. Even you telling to a friend what happened yesterday during a very important event, that's informative. Two, persuasive speaking. When we talk about persuasive speeches, what comes to my mind is that it's one of the most common speaking types or speech types because in everyday lives, we are often called to convince, to motivate, or otherwise, persuade other people around us to change their beliefs and take action and reconsider a decision. I just would like to share with the world right now that tomorrow, May 9th, is another day for the Philippines to vote for leaders. It's the national elections in the Philippines. So in the past months, there have been persuasive speeches all over social media, all over the entire country, because politicians have to persuade the audience why they deserve the people's votes. What these candidates did was to um, persuade the audience through the platform of governance, through performance, through credentials, through plans for the people and whatnot. So these are the parts of the speeches of the politicians in the Philippines in the past months because it's going to be the national elections tomorrow. So for some people, such as I've said, such as elected officials, they give persuasive speeches because this is a crucial part of attaining and continuing career success. Next is entertaining speaking. So the third type of speaking is for the sake of entertainment. What does it tell us? This type of speaking involves an array of speaking occasions ranging from, let's say, introductions to wedding toasts, excuse me, to presenting and accepting awards, to delivering eulogies at funerals and memorial services, to keep the audience entertained in any way. That's the very heart of entertaining speech. As anyone who has watched an awards show on television, you might have seen an incoherent bestman deliver a wedding toast can attest speaking to entertain because it's a task that requires also a preparation to be effective. So um, this entertaining speaking type is actually for amusement, for catching the attention of audience, to regale, to amuse them, to astonish them while delivering a speech. I have this favorite public speaker, Jolo. He's actually what a comedian, and he entertains people through jokes. I love him very much. So why do we need to speak in public? What should be put in mind as the main reasons why we are encouraged to speak in public? Oral communication skills, um, were the number one skill that, well, college students found useful in the business world. There are a lot of studies that could prove that. That's why in college we always do our best to, prepare ourselves for the profession that we're going to have in the future. So one of the things we need to prepare for is the public speaking, because for example you're going to be a businessman, you're going to be a teacher. Every single profession requires the ability to speak, to deliver a message effectively. So there are different benefits of public speaking. Once you have learned the basic skills associated with public speaking, you'll find that being able to effectively speak in public has profound benefits. Number one, influencing the world around you. That's deep, right? That's deep. Public speaking can can give you the power to influence the world around you. What does it try to tell us? If you don't like something about local government, then speak out about your issue. What if the best ways to get uh, our society to change is through the power of speech? One of the amazing parts of being a citizen of a country in a democratic society is the right to stand up and speak out, which is a luxury many people in the world do not have. So if you do not like something, say, be the force of change you're looking for through the power of speech. So the first reason, you have the power to influence the world around you through speech. Amazing. Two, the second reason why we are encouraged to speak in public is for us to develop our leadership skills. Hmm. Have you ever thought about climbing the corporate ladder and eventually finding yourself in a management and other leadership position? Hmm. If so, then public speaking skills are very important. There are studies I have read, like Hackman and Johnson 2004. This study asserts that effective public speaking skills are a necessity for all leaders. Powerful leadership comes from knowing what matters to you. Powerful presentations come from expressing this effectively. It is important to develop both, according to Bender in 1998. One of the most important skills for leaders to develop is their public speaking skills. That is something that could not be debunked by any argument, because if you are a good leader, if you are an effective leader, you must be an effective communicator and you must be an effective public speaker. Three, becoming a thought leader. If you are a public speaker, you can become a thought leader. What does being a thought leader mean? Even if you are not in an official leadership position, effective public speaking can help you become a thought leader. Um, Joel Kurtzman, an editor of strategy and business, has actually coined this term to call to attention to individuals who contribute, you know, new ideas to the world of business. You are a leader who contributes innovative ideas. You are an innovator because you are able to present fresh ideas. According to um, another author, um, when colleagues, prospects, and customers view you as one very smart guy to know, then you are a thought leader. You are someone who could be considered a consultant for a company, for an organization, for a project, for an initiative. Then being a thought leader is actually an opportunity for you to inspire. So how do you inspire? You speak. You do public speaking. And when you do public speaking, you are considered a thought leader yourself. Now, let's talk about the components of the public speaking process. In this part of the lecture, we're going to talk about the the three main factors that we need, or components that we need to consider when we speak in public. What are the three components? As noted earlier, all of us, whether we're students or professionals, uh, encounter thousands of messages in our everyday environments. So getting your idea heard above all the other ones is a constant battle. Some speakers will try gimmicks, will try techniques, will try strategies. But I strongly believe that getting your message heard depends on three fundamental components. One is message. The first part of getting your message across is the message itself. It's the heart of the speech. It's the meat of what you're doing. It's the message itself. When what you are saying is clear and coherent, people are more likely to pay attention to it. On the other hand, when a message is ambiguous, unclear, something that provokes misunderstanding, people will often stop paying attention to that. Our discussion in the first part, as I've told you, involved how important it is to have a good and clear and coherent, speech for you to be able to entertain, inspire, persuade down the line. So that's the message itself. Two, skills. The second part of getting your message heard is having effective communication skills. You may have the best ideas in the world, fine, fine. But if you do not possess basic public speaking skills, you're going to have a problem. A big problem. You're going to have a big problem getting anyone to listen to you. So in this lecture, I'll try to share with you some of the tips later on, how to, you know, do a leg up when it comes to your skills in public speaking. So stay there. Lastly is passion. I'd like to accentuate the fact that this component really plays a crucial role in public speaking. If you want your message to be heard, you must communicate with passion, the passion for your message. One mistake that novice public speakers make is picking topics in which they have no emotional investment. That's why when I was given the chance to speak here before you, um, by the universal webinars, I was asked what topic I'd like to share with the international audience. I immediately shared with Mr. Sammy that I wanted to talk about public speaking because it's where I find my passion. It's where I see myself inspiring and encouraging and empowering people. It's where I find myself best. On top of being a teacher, on top of being a school administrator, I really love the fact that I am a public speaker. So if an audience can tell that you don't really care about your topic, you're just speaking for the sake of speaking, then they will just tune you out. They'll just shrug it off. I mean, they won't give any damn about what you're talking about because you yourself don't share the passion in what you do. So passion is the extras part that draws people's attention and makes these people want to listen to your message. So let's review components when you speak in public. The message itself, it's the what. Skills, it's how you say it. And the passion, it's the heart while you speak. In relation to the components of the public speaking process, I'd love to share with you the dialogic theory of public speaking, because most people think of public speaking as engaging in a monologue where the speaker stands and delivers information and the audience passively listens. Based on many researches and studies, all communication, even public speaking, could be viewed as a dialogue. Right now, I'm talking to you. We should consider this according to studies of Ronald Ardet and Pat Ardison in 1999, supported by other studies, that even this kind of conversation, this kind of discussion is a dialogue per se. So let's talk about the dialogic theory based on three overarching principles. One, that dialogue is more natural than monologue. The first tenet of the dialogic perspective or theory is that communication should be a dialogue and not a monologue. Public speaking situations often turn into dialogues when audiences actively engage speakers by asking questions. So I would expect you guys after my lecture, questions will be coming in. I'll try my best to answer these questions. So we could call this conversation, this session, a dialogue. Well, studies would also claim that nonverbal behavior, aside from verbal responses or feedbacks or questions, nonverbal behavior, for example, nodding one's head in agreement or scowling or raising your eyebrows or the head gestures, these functions as feedback for speakers and contribute to a dialogue. Overall, if you approach your public speaking experience as a dialogue, you'll be more actively engaged as as a speaker and more attentive to how your audience is responding, which will in turn lead to more actively engaged audience members. The second principle tells us that meanings are in people. I love this principle very much. I've learned this when I was in college in my communication in my speech and oral communication class, that meanings are in people. Meanings are in people and not in words. Part of the dialogic process in public speaking is realizing that you and your audience may differ in how you see your speech. What does it mean? Um, the meanings of words must be mutually agreed upon by people interacting with each other. That's a challenge then for the interlocutors in the conversation, for me as a speaker and for you as the audience. If you say the word dog and think of a soft, for example, furry pets in your audience, um, members think of the animal that attacked them as a child. The two of you perceive the word from very different vantage points. As speakers, we must do our best to craft messages that take our audience into account. What does it mean? We use audience feedback to determine whether the meaning we intend is the one that is being received by them. To be successful at conveying our desired meaning, we must know quite a bit about, you know, our audience, so we can make language choices that will be the most appropriate for the context. Because meanings um, are crucial. Sometimes what you say and what you mean is not the meaning they receive. So the challenge is on you, speakers, to assure that your meanings, you know, are transferred, are conveyed accurately, and they receive the exact meanings that you have as speaker. That is what we mean by meanings are in people. Three, context and social situations. Human interactions take place according to cultural norms and rules. How we approach people, the words we choose, and how we deliver speeches are all dependent on different speaking contexts and social functions and situations. So um, we are actually reminded that good public speaking is a matter of taking into account the cultural background of the audience and attempting to engage the audience in a dialogue from their own vantage point. At this point, we have just discussed the three principles of dialogic theory of public speaking. Um, that dialogue is more natural than monologue, that meanings are in people and not in words, and lastly, contexts and social situations impact meanings. Three, the third part of this lecture is ethical considerations in public speaking. Um, this will help us understand when we speak in public how can we be ethical? I mean, how do we pay respect to norms? How do we respect to ethics? We will try to explain the levels of ethics here. I'm going to show you the ethics pyramid, which we will be using in evaluating our ethical choices as public speakers and even as audience, as listeners. Every day of our lives, in every day of our lives, people around the world make ethical decisions regarding public speech or speaking. So questions like, is it ever appropriate to lie to a group of people? If it is in the group's best interest, can you try to answer this first question? Is it ever appropriate to lie to a group of people if it is in the group's best interest? As a speaker, should you use evidence within a speech that you are not sure is correct if it supports the speech's core argument? What do you think? As a listener, should you refuse to listen to a speaker with whom you fundamentally disagree? I have these three questions for everyone as we talk about ethical considerations in public speaking. You can just answer for yourself, though. Can't answer for anyone else. Is it a yes or a no? All right. So let's talk about the ethics pyramid. And later on, we'll go back to this set of questions in relation to how we should be consider ourselves as ethical public speakers and audience. So this ethics pyramid actually was proposed by 𝘆cie in 2005. 𝘆cie is a public communication ethics expert from Macy University, and she proposed a structured approach to thinking about ethics. This is what she called the ethics pyramid, making ethics unavoidable in the public relations process. The term is unavoidable. So when we speak in public, there is this facet of public speaking that we should never forget. That's ethics. Let's talk about the first consideration, intent. According to 𝘆cie, the first major consideration to be aware when examining the ethicality of something is the issue of content, the goal, the purpose. To be an ethical speaker or listener, it is important to begin with ethical intentions. For example, if we agree that honesty is ethical, it follows that ethical speakers will prepare their remarks with the intention of telling the truth to their audiences. Similarly, if we agree that it is ethical to listen with an open mind, it follows that ethical listeners will be intentional about letting a speaker make his or her case before forming judgments. What are your intentions before you speak? What are your intentions before you listen? So these are the grounds as we talk about the first ethical consideration, intent. The second one, means or ways, or the ways, the process of doing it. The author of this ethical pyramid, 𝘆cie, describes the means we use to communicate with others as the second level of ethics. The means are the tools, the tools or the behaviors we employ to achieve a desired outcome. We must realize that there are, a range of possible behavioral choices for any situation, and that some choices are good, some choices are bad, some fall in between. For example, you want your friend to spend an hour, say, reviewing a draft of your speech according to a certain group of criteria, such an audience appropriateness, um, adequate research, strong support of assertions, dynamic introduction, conclusion, and all those stuff. What means might you use to persuade your friend to do this favor? What behavior should you use to persuade your friend to do this favor? You might want to explain to your friend that you value his, say, opinion, perspective, his expertise, and will gladly return the favor the next time if your friend is preparing a good speech as well. So that's a good means, not give and take, isn't it? As friends, we observe the principle of giving and taking at the same time. But on the other hand, you might threaten to tell, say, a teacher, a professor, a supervisor, that your friend, your very best friend, cheated on the test. Ooh, you're threatening. You're doing the blackmailing approach. Is it a good means? Do this thing, or else I'll squeal. I'll let the entire world know that you cheated on a test you did last week. You did not get 50 over 50 because you studied, but because you cheated. If you won't do this, I'll destroy you. Wow. Come on. Which do you choose for yourself? The good means or the bad means? The answer is yours. And let's talk about the third ethical consideration. The final part of the ethics pyramid is the ends. According to Krosky, Wrench, and Richmond in 2003, principles of public speaking tells us that the means are the behavioral choices we make, and the ends are the results of those choices. When we examine ends, we need to think about both the source and the receiver of the message or the behavior. Some end results could be good for the source, but bad for the reviewer, and vice versa. Again, the ethical standards you and your audience, expect to be met, will help in deciding whether a particular combination of a speaker audience ends is ethical. So, with that, let's talk about the three essential questions when we do public speaking. Well, while we think through the pyramid, let's ask ourselves basic questions. Have I discussed the ethicality of the behavior with others and come to a general consensus that the behavior is ethical? When we did our public speaking function, did we discuss the ethicality of behavior? Does a behavior adhere to known codes of ethics? Let's say it's not good to curse in public because they're children in the audience. So what does it tell you? Does your behavior adhere to known codes of ethics? Say jokes about rape, jokes about religions, jokes about war. You really took the risk to make jokes about these things while your audience is sensitive about these topics. Would I be happy if the outcomes of the behavior were reversed and applied to me? Applying the golden principle. If the jokes were thrown to me, if the outcomes of my behavior was were directed to me, would I be happy? So 3 essential questions to ask yourselves to gauge the ethicality of the public speaking process we are producing. Right, I hope I was clear about that. Okay, so these are just questions that you can ask yourself. Later on, I'll be sharing my PowerPoint, with you, this file, so you could ask yourself whether what you're doing is ethical or not when it comes to public speaking. So there are actually 15 questions here prepared for you. Ask yourself. Okay, and I won't reveal, you know, this important part here in the file, the one blocked by this, what's that, whatever that is. That's a line or what. But I'll be sharing this PowerPoint because I'd like you guys to reflect on the ethicality of your public speaking functions. Okay. Right. Let's try this. Darlene is in the process of preparing a speech on the global warming. She knowingly includes a source from a French group that has been previously discredited, but she thinks the source will really help her drive her argument home. What combination of ethics experiment does this case represent? A. Intentional use of bad means. B. Intentional use of good means. C. Unintentional use of bad means. D. Unintentional use of good means. Or E. Intentional use of neutral means. I'd like to give you 3 seconds to think. If you can key in your answers in the chat box, A, B, C, D, or E, what's your answer? What combination of the ethics pyramid does this case represent? What ethical consideration was shown here? Was violated, I should say. 1, 2, 3. If your answer is B, you're wrong. If your answer is C, you're wrong. Because the correct answer is A, the intentional use of bad means. All right. And the last part of my speech, of my lecture, is talking about the strengths in public speaking. One of your biggest concerns about public speaking might be how to deal with nervousness or unexpected events. If that's the case, you're not alone. Fear of speaking in public consistently, ranks at the top of the list of people's common fears. That's normal. And if you fear public speaking, that's normal. Congratulate yourself for being a normal human being. Some people are not joking when they say they would rather die than stand up and speak in front of a live audience. I used to be like that years ago. The fear of public speaking, ranks right up there with the fear of flying, fear of death, and fear of spiders, and fear of cockroaches. Yuck. So fear of public speaking is normal. But if we want to develop ourselves, if we want to evolve into better public speakers, we have to overcome, we have to transcend the fears within us and believe that we can. So let's talk about lightly about comprehension in communication, because I have only 20 minutes left. This apprehension is a term that refers to our fears. No? So don't worry if you have apprehensions or anxieties in speaking with either real or anticipated communication with other person or persons or a group of individuals. But believe me, this communication apprehension is rooted in our minds. One thing I'd like you to understand, it's always mind over matter. The 2 M's. It's up to you if it's matter over mind. But for me, it's mind over matter. Okay? Shrug it off. Right? This apprehension will just stay there if you think you need to be apprehensive. But if you need to be courageous and to be confident, then apprehension will have no room in your being, and you'll be able to develop yourself into a better public speaker. So there are myths that we should discard starting at this point when we talk about public speaking. One, people who suffer from speaking anxiety are neurotic. God, people who think that people of fear public speaking are people who have mental problems. No, that's not that's not true. It has never been proven by science that people of fear public speaking has mental problems. No, 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 no. This is something that we should right away this discard at this point. Two, telling a joke or two is always a good way to begin a speech. Well, humor is some of the toughest material to deliver effectively because it requires, an exquisite sense of timing. Nothing is worse than waiting for a laugh than that does not come. Let me say that again. Nothing is worse than waiting for a laugh that does not come. We should accept the fact that not every one of us is blessed with a sense of humor. So it is not a mandatory rule that when we start speaking in public, we should throw a joke because it's an awkward situation when you throw a joke and no one did understand you. You might want to ask the earth to swallow you right away just because you did not hear any love from your audience. That's awkward. That's gonna kill you. That's gonna kill me from my end. No? But that's not a mandatory rule. Okay, you do not really have to start a speech with a joke. Three, imagine the audience as naked, or imagining the audience being naked. So for the typographical, or imagine the audience is naked. The tip just plain doesn't work because imagining the audience naked will do nothing to calm your nerves. Eh? Some of my public speaking coaches before would tell me, imagine there were no audience. Really? It did not work well for me because I I myself would love to see reactions than seeing no reactions at all. So I don't feel speaking before a blank audience. Actually, it's actually difficult right now to speak before you because I don't see anyone. That I believe you're there. I believe you're listening to me. I believe you interacting with me. Any mistake means that you have blown it. God, mistakes are inevitable. Don't think that when you commit mistake, you have messed up. No, we all make mistakes. No one can be perfect in public speaking. You cannot be a an expert public speaker in a blink of an eye, in a snap of a finger, at the drop of the hat. You can't do that. It takes a tremendous training and a belief within yourself, and time will come. You evolve into a good public speaker. You just don't sleep tonight and tomorrow you'll be a good speaker. No. So from time to time, in the process of progress, you will encounter mistakes. Okay, forgive yourself and move on. Avoid speaking anxiety by writing your speech out word for word and memorizing it. God, this is something I'd like to correct. Because many people would say memorizing is the best tool in public speaking. No. What if you forget a word in a sentence, in a paragraph? Everything is messed up. Okay? Don't dare to memorize your speech just because you want to impress your audience. That's not the point. You're memorizing your speech word for word will likely you make your apprehension worse than rather than better. Instead of remembering 3 to 5 points and subpoints, you will try to commit to memory than more than 1,000 bits of data. So that's delusional. That's a delusional belief. Audience are out to get you. No, audience will not be out to get you. Most face-to-face audience are interested in your material, not in your image. They will not judge the way you look, the way you speak, but of course it's your responsibility as well to appear, professional before them. But they're not there to eat you out. When you commit mistakes, they will not there to demoralize you. They're not there to kill you. Okay, so relax and keep practicing and keep believing that from time to time you know, audiences will have comments, suggestions, violent reactions. I've counted a lot of people who would um, stand before me and say some rude things about the way I speak, but that's normal. And I thank them for giving me these criticisms. These are not destructive criticisms. For me, these are constructive criticisms that could help me better myself as a speaker. So thank these people who criticizes you for your betterment. They won't kill you. 7, you will look to the audience as nervous as you feel. Um, Researchers have shown that audiences do not perceive the level of nervousness that speakers report. Most listeners judge speakers as less anxious than speakers rate themselves. In other words, the audience is not likely to perceive accurately the level of anxiety you might be experiencing. Some of the most effective speakers will return to their seats after their speech and exclaim, they were so nervous. It's not true that public speakers do not experience nervousness. God, I experience, if not all the time, sometimes, butterflies in my stomach, especially if I talk to an international audience and, talk to international academics in different um, schools and universities across the globe. But I would like to appear, I know what I'm trying to say, because I really do. But the fact that it's normal that you feel nervous, and that's okay. That's okay. A little nervousness helps you give a better speech. I should say, this is a belief that is true. Professional speakers, actors, and other artists rely on the heightened arousal of nervousness. This nervousness actually challenges the person to 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 showcase more, to be more, to do more. This propels the person to level up because there is something that challenges him within him. You know, uh, so I think this myth should be considered a true perspective, a true belief. People would much rather listen to a speaker who is alert and enthusiastic than one who is relaxed to the point of boredom. Person who is overconfident is something I, I loathe to listen to. A person is overconfident, a braggadocio, an arrogant individual is something I do not, is someone I do not want to listen to. So a little nervousness within you you actually will make you feel humble but challenged to be better. Okay, to do more during your public speaking engagement. So I think I have worded enough, but before I end my speech at this point, um, let me showcase some of the techniques so we can reduce our apprehension in public speaking. Um, you want to hear that? You want to learn some techniques and tips and tricks in public speaking? Let's talk about one by one. Well, I'm gonna leave that. Okay, one. Think positively, everyone. Audience of the world, think positively. As I mentioned earlier, communication apprehension begins in the mind as a psychological response. This underscores the importance of a speaker's psychological attitude towards speaking. So, to prepare yourself mentally for a successful speaking experience, start by thinking positively. That's called cognitive restructuring. It is simply changing how you label the physiological responses, the shaking, butterflies in your stomachs, the the shaking of voice, rather than thinking of public speaking as a dreaded obligation. Make a conscious decision and consider it an exciting opportunity. The first audience members that you have to convince is yourself. Convince yourself that you can. Convince yourself that you have the power to speak before a crowd. Convince yourself that you have what it takes to be a public speaker. That's the very first thing. I'll never be tired of accentuating that concept that you have to think positively about yourself because you have what it takes to be a public speaker. If you say something to yourself often enough, you will gradually come to believe it, right? Two, prepare well. Hmm. Nothing beats um, preparation. Nothing beats preparation. The audience that we imagine in our minds is almost always more threatening than the reality of people sitting in front of us. But if we prepare well, if we prepare well for the performance, for the public speaking engagement, then you can make yourself confident and at least um, at ease, you know, before speaking before a crowd, you know. So prepare well because every speaker can and should prepare so that the unknowns of the speech event are kept to a minimum, especially about the topic we're going to talk about during the session or during the lecture. That preparation is the key, the king in um, a good public speaking engagement. Three, analyze your audience. Well, we believe that our audience could be sometimes uh, threatening, haha, threatening, because some audience are judgmental. We know that people are usually judgmental. The more information you have about them, however, including their characteristics, the more you will be able to craft an effective message. What does it tell us? Provide a message that could make them relate with you. It's actually hitting the bullseye. It's actually touching the very core of their being with your message, making sure that your message touches them, making sure that your message is relatable, is meaningful, is insightful for them, something that they can understand, it's something that they can apply in their own lives. So it's an assignment that you analyze your own audience. Organize your ideas, then do structuring, prepare prepare as a speaker by knowing the main points of your message so well so that you can remember these points even when you are feeling highly anxious, which is normal. And the best way to learn those points is to create an outline, you know. As a speaker, I myself have outlines when I speak, you know. Bulleted points could suffice. So you wouldn't miss any important detail. Adapt your language to the oral mode. What does it tell us? Appropriate oral style is more concrete and vivid than written style. Another reason not to write out your speech as a manuscript is that to speak effectively, you want your language to be adopted to the oral um, modes, not written mode. So do not also try to memorize because it will appear you're speaking like a robot. Okay? Speak as a person who inspires, not a robot who commands. Six, practice in conditions similar to those you will face when speaking. It is not enough that you practice your speech silently in your head. Voice it out. To reduce anxiety and increase the likelihood of successful performance, sometimes I suggest you practice it out loud, even with live audience, like your friends, like your family members. Practice delivering your speech as well out loud while standing on your feet. Okay? If you make a mistake, do not stop to correct it, but continue. Move on. Continue all the way through your speech and you will believe that that is what you will have to do when you're in front of the audience. You know, eventually you will realize that's the real situations. Real situation. Mistakes happen, but continue. But do practices, okay? And watch what you eat. Sometimes we eat too much before we speak, then we get stomach aches. Oh God, that's something I find hilarious. And the butterflies in your stomach are likely to be noticeable when you skip normal meals. Do not skip your meals. Eat something before you speak because the butterflies in your stomach will disturb you while you speak if you're starving. So eat something, please. But do not overeat. Well, if you want to overeat, if you do it after your speech, okay? Yeah, do vocal warm ups, talk with others, hum, sing, do a warm shower, have a warm shower, stretch your face, uh, exercise and roll the head, you know, to prepare yourself physically. Do deep breathing, slowing down, pausing, smiling at the audience, calmly moving around the room. Look at the audience from left to right. I would suggest look at them straight into their eyes, but some coaches would say look at them in the forehead. But as a coach, challenge yourself to look at them straight into their eyes and be confident with what you're about to say because you know what you're saying. You know what you're talking about. Okay? So I think I wouldn't have to explain this part already. I'll just share the PowerPoint with you because these are just light parts of the lecture. These are technical difficulties, external distractions down the line. So at this point, I'd love to thank every one of you guys for being with me as we have covered important topics in this lecture: the essentiality of public speaking, components of the public speaking process, ethical considerations in public speaking, and the ways and how to master courage and confidence, which will be your strengths in public speaking engagements. So, what's your key takeaway from today's lecture? I hope to hear from each one of you guys in the chat box later on, and with your questions, let's answer them. But before I end the speech, I'd love to leave you this quote from John Ford. Ladies and gentlemen, you can speak well if your tongue can deliver the message of your heart. Let your heart speak, because speaking through the heart is the way to inspire, to empower, and to change the world. If you can speak, according to Rob Brown, you can influence. But if you can influence, you can change lives. Thank you very much for being with me this afternoon. Once again, I'm Henry Limana. Shukran, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. This was very much knowledgeful and valuable for we all. Now I just repeat all the instructions to the participants that we will send the feedback form link in between the question answer section, and do not worry about that. We will surely send that, and you will have half hour even after the end of this webinar to fill that. What you has to do, first you have to subscribe our channel, because when you will not do so, maybe our media team inspect, and then you might feel or face difficulties in getting a certificate. So it is compulsory for you all to subscribe our channel, and after that we will send the feedback form link, copy it and paste it in your browser or anywhere else there, because when the webinar will end, that link will be disappeared. Now I will welcome our today's guest, Miss Kim Athena, for the question answer section with Sir Dr. Henry. Hello, ma'am. How are you? And welcome to our today's webinar. Ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Hello. Yes, sir.
Hi.
Sir?
Ma'am, you can ask question from sir.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Yes, but before I do, I'd really like to thank sir for that a quite thorough and comprehensive presentation. I've learned so much which I can apply in my teaching. I hope my students will do as well. So if I do have a query, I think I will just ask if you have further notions on the discourse in social media, since it is where a lot of us interact nowadays, especially in persuasive discourse, sir.
Can I have the question again?
Do you, I'd just like to know if you have any thoughts on how we can interact through social media, especially when we
Mm,
are persuading someone, like you said in the Philippines during the elections with our different beliefs.
okay. Generally, I'd like to talk about how social media plays a crucial role in today's communicative um, arena. You know, social media has become an essential part of today's living, isn't it? In online
Yes.
communication, it's easy for misunderstandings to arise if the followers or those engaged in social media do not know what we hosts we try to convey. Um, I remember Crystal. He's actually a writer, David Crystal. One of his notions about communication is that audience has to understand the tone and the intention in someone's message or post. But this tone and intention could be hardly grasped in a social media platform. We cannot hear the tone of the message when someone posts a message. Meaning to say, we lack this aspect of communication. Sometimes this results in what? In misunderstanding. So it is therefore vital to be careful what tone someone uses in his or her social media posts. As- Sometimes we say okay, for example, okay. Some people find it um, rude to say okay, but some people find okay is okay. You know what I mean? Because some people would use
Yes.
okay with an exclamation mark, but we do not hear that person speaking okay. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just said okay. See, the misunderstandings could be could be inevitable in social media. So it's a challenge for us when we persuade people in social media platforms. We understand. Let's go back to the components, to the intention. Let's go back to the purpose. Let's go back to ethics. No, without compromising values. Of course, when we share messages, one thing is to think before you click. Also, you've mentioned about politics. You've mentioned about elections tomorrow. I've mentioned about that because this information nowadays, God, God, this is killing me. This information nowadays. Oh, how can we contain that? It has been a part of human existence. I do not understand why this information has to be a part of our existence. We accept that something which is improbable, something which is illogical, something which is founded on lie, is is paraded on social media, and we're proud of that. Uh, uh, I can't. I, I'm sorry. I cannot compose myself because I find this very, very frustrating. Because even people who have, let's say, the power to understand um, difficult discourses on social media, they can read, they can analyze, they can synthesize, they can evaluate, but they are the purveyors of social disinformation. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry. I'm very emphatic. I'm emphatic about this topic because they do not think
Passion.
what what they need to share. They don't think before they click. They just want to share just because something in their mind is mirrored in a post, for example. They don't analyze that the ethicality is destroyed in such a message. It's not just about persuading people with what you believe, but it's persuading people with what is right. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
sir.
sir. That was quite a profound answer to the question.
Thank you, ma'am. Kim. I hope your question is very much clearly answered, Visram.
Yes, sir. I'm very satisfied.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am. Hopefully, we will have you once again because you are so much active during the webinars. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us. Thank you very much. To all of the participants, kindly send your questions in comment box. We are giving you 2 minutes to type your questions. We are waiting for your questions, participants. We are waiting for your questions. Type your questions in comment box. And to those who can't watch the text box or the option of live chat, I request them to log into their browser or to open this link in the official YouTube application. We are waiting for your question answers. So I think we have first question on the screen.
Have you ever experienced someone disagreeing with you during public speaking, and how do you handle cases like that? Well, let me recall. Uh, no. The honest answer is no. I think I've never experienced someone disagreeing with me. Well, during debates, yeah, that's normal. I've been a debater when I was in college till now though. But during public speaking, like lectures, um, I've never encountered anyone who would question the veracity of the points I'm laying down during my lectures. But well, let's take a look at if ever I encounter people who would disagree with me. That's okay. How would I handle that? Let's say people have a different political perspective. Let's say during the elections in the Philippines right now, I would. I, in fact, I've been having a lot of discourses um, with different people in the past month because of this election. So I would listen to them. I would weigh in where they're coming from, and I would synthesize how I could mm, debunk their claims. As a debater, um, it's it's natural for me to look into how I could I could present my argument very well. So I would listen first, but I'd like to make it a point as well that you know uh, I need to put forward my argument because that's what a debater does. So yeah, I would listen. I would accept criticism, but questioning, let's say, views. Well, that's you know
So our second
valid
question is on the screen.
points. Thank
So
you.
the second question is that will you be able to speak loudly if you're nervous? Because sometimes you can speak loud right.
Will you be able to speak loudly for nervous? Well, in my case, yes. I'm able to speak loudly even if I'm nervous. Well, I can't speak on your behalf, but yes, I can still speak loudly if I'm nervous. The fact that
There,
I know what I'm talking about, so I can speak loudly.
so there is another question. In line with the tone you said a while ago, sir, how do you propose we should post on social media with the intended tone?
Ah, okay. Well, use your words correctly, um, appropriately, um, use the diction that you need to use in order to convey the message correctly. We cannot avoid, as I said, we cannot avoid misunderstanding in social media because of the lack of tone. But at least we know how to use words correctly. We know how to structure our messages correctly. We cannot be commanding, we cannot be authoritative. We can be persuasive, we can be reflective, but we cannot be commanding. So we can avoid, you know, hurting other people's feelings and misunderstandings.
So the other question is that what if we have lack of confidence, then how we speak publicly?
Well, you don't need to force yourself right away to speak publicly. It's a matter of process to train yourself to speak publicly. Start with thinking that you can speak publicly, then train yourself and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice. It takes a lot of determination to be a public speaker. But believe that to be successful in your field, you need to progress in terms of public speaking as well. So right now, if you do not have the confidence to speak publicly, then don't force yourself to speak publicly at this point. Start with your belief that you can, then practice, then you will evolve. Eventually, you become the best version of yourself as a public speaker.
So Mr. Jake is asking how to be effective public speaker like you.
How to be like me, how to be you po. That's how we say that in the Philippines. How to be you po. Uh, I don't know. I think it's it's amalgamation of talent and skill. A talent is something that is endowed by the heavens, and the skill something that I develop in myself. Well, I think that's how it went through why I became this as a public speaker today. But well, thank God and thank you myself for progressing and keep developing as a public speaker. Keep keep practicing. I think that's one thing. You know what? When I was in grade two, I really would cry when my teacher asked me to speak in front. Then my mom enrolled me in a speech class when I was in grade three, grade four, and grade five. Then there I started to transcend my fears, overcome my anxieties and apprehensions. And I started to join competitions like newscasting. I started to write essays as well. And when I write essays, I read my essays in front of my parents. They would correct me, they would give comments on that. And when I was in high school, I wanted to become a broadcaster down the line. So it takes a lot of 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 your belief in yourself that there is something you want to achieve. So when there's something you want to achieve, by all means, you'll really do your
So,
best to achieve this thing.
Mr. Daniel is asking if you give a wrong information or your tongue slips during a presentation, what must you do to correct it?
Ah, the slip of the tongue is inevitable. That's normal. Sometimes, um, you know, this fillers I use, these are also techniques when you speak to buy time, to think of what to say next. The fillers are very important as well. But when you give information, I don't understand why you need to give raw information. Don't give raw information in the very first place. But slips of the tongue or mistakes are acceptable. Move on. Keep speaking.
Sir, Miss Josefa Nasib is asking how to build confidence.
So yeah, during our session, I have answered this. Start believing in yourself. Practice, practice, practice. Um, Consider someone. This suggestion is what I'd like you guys to um, accept as well. Consider someone whom you consider to be a good public speaker, and watch this person, talk to this person from time to time. Whether on YouTube, if you can talk to this person, at least listen to this person. Make this person your model of communication. Then reach that level of communicative competence that this person has.
Sir, Mr. John has written that just want to point out about what you discussed earlier, which is you can pause when doing a speech to avoid
Mm,
stuttering. Is there any
stuttering.
useful tips on how to do that without being pressured.
Thank you, John. This is very important that when we speak in public, we can do pauses. Okay? Speaking in public is not being in a race of whoever speaks the most, the fastest. It's not the point. Okay? You can do pauses. And pauses can be substitutes to fillers. Fillers are the making of the hums when you're thinking of the next thing to do. So yeah, it's okay to do pauses. So you can compose yourself, you can relax, you can be on your toes and continue speaking confidently.
Sir, the other question is how to handle the situation during the public speaking if we speak something wrong by mistake. The same
Ah,
question which you have, I
same
think,
question.
already answered.
Move on. By mistake. It's not intentional. Move
So
on.
there is other one that how can we handle nervousness during in a public speaking conversation to show
Yeah.
confidence and not being nervousness or having a social anxiety.
Well, yeah, during our lecture we talked about how we can overcome anxiety and apprehension, no? So
So,
avoid
sir,
we can avoid nervousness by preparing,
so
preparing
I think
yourself.
those people who are questioning from even though you have answered already should go and watch the recording of the presentation that you have
Okay. By
already.
the way, I'm sharing the PowerPoint with you guys.
Yes, sir. How can I grab attention of audience during public speaking?
Be enthusiastic. Be powerful in terms of how you deliver your message. It's not always about what you say, it's more about how you say it. It's the passion that comes from your heart to attract, to captivate, to arrest the attention of your audience.
Sir, how important is good public speaking skill in the field of politics and the life of a politician?
Oh, that's not questionable. As a politician, you have the responsibility to convey, messages to your people. So public speaking skills are indeed important to persuade, to inform, to entertain.
So how can or how to overcome nervousness if you get frightened standing in front of people, especially during any presentation?
I'll say if you haven't started yet, you're not nervous, but when you stand before the crowd, you started being nervous. Ah, okay, relax. And then inhale, exhale, deep breathing. Sometimes I would suggest you sip, you drink water, relax, and start speaking um, with an introduction about yourself so you can actually pacify yourself.
So Miss Anglika is asking, I think, the same question that my weakness is publicly speaking. The reason is I am not good in English. I am not confident. How to conquer my fear?
I think your fear is anchored in the fact that you're claiming you're not good in English. That's your fear, right? You're fearing that you might get judged by people around you because of your English. Fine. If that's the case, if English is the reason, then train yourself how to be better in English. So that's how we can attack the problem, address the problem. So challenge yourself to be better in English, read books, watch TED Talks on YouTube, that's free, and converse with people who speak well in English, and that's how you can better yourself in English. And other techniques I can share with you, but you can do the research on your own though.
So is being handsome, attractive, or having a pleasing personality a plus point in catching attention if you are public speaking?
No, I don't know, but I don't think that's a prerequisite. But well, yeah, it depends on the occasion. Let's say it's a pageant. It's an event of beauty. It's a pageant. So a host must be someone who looks good as well, because the candidates look good as well. So, but in public speaking, when you deliver something because you want to inspire, it does not mean you have to be good looking. But by the way, everyone has to believe they have the good traits in them, whether physically or emotionally, outside or inside. We're good individuals. We can speak in public.
Good evening, Miss Rose. Sir, Miss Rose is asking that my question is if my audience are all Filipinos, can I speak with them in Filipino rather than in English in public speaking?
Of course, ma'am. You can speak in our native language. In fact, if I host events in my province in Sultan Kudarat, I would speak in Ilonggo. And I would speak in that language because that's the way I can captivate the interest of my audience. I would, of course, analyze my audience first. Let's say I would do hosting in a barangay, in a sitio. I would not speak in English. It would not make sense to them if I speak in English. They would say you're just bragging your skills in English. So if I analyze my audience and the best language I would use is my native language, then that's the thing I should consider. Thank you.
So I think this is the repetition of question. If one becomes tongue tied, what can be problem? Fear, how do we overcome it?
Tongue tied. Wow.
Yes, sir.
So pause. Pause. Stop speaking for a bit. Relax, because you're pressuring yourself actually. So the only way to ease that is to relax.
Sir, here is the other question. Is it okay to employ ethos, pathos, and logos in public speaking?
Again,
Sir, it is on screen. Uh, is it okay to employ ethos, pathos, and logos in public speaking?
yes, of course. Actually, these three considerations, ethos, pathos, and logos, are the components of a great speech. How do we say it's important? Ethos is being able to establish your authority to speak on the subject, and your logos is being able to show how logical you are as a speaker, and your pathos is your passion, being able to inspire them through bringing out emotions, through bringing out values in them. So yeah, of course.
Sir, Miss Reno is asking how to be you, sir. I am so envious that you have possessed of having good communication skills.
Reno, be don't please do not be envious. I think that's not a word you should use. Please be challenged. Please be inspired. So I would love to hear you're inspired, but to be like me, to be like me, read a lot and speak a lot and practice a lot.
So give some suggestions for introvert and
Ah,
ambivert people of public speaking.
there are people who are shy type, really. We cannot question that, but they also desire to improve their public speaking competence. So one thing I'd love to suggest is that grab a friend who understands you, who does not judge you, who feels you. Then converse with this person from time to time in the target language, which is English. If your target language is Filipino, then use Filipino. So grab this friend who's actually embracing all the flaws you have, who will not judge you no matter what mistakes you commit. Then this friend will help you all throughout.
So Miss Reno Montero is again asking what some instances make you unmotivated to be an effective speaker.
Unmotivated.
She's asking what some instances
Unmotivated.
make you unmotivated to be an effective speaker.
What makes me unmotivated? What
Means the
makes me
barriers, sir. Barriers. I think she's asking about the barriers which
I
stop
think
you to be.
well, I think your um physical situation or aspect. If you're sick, then how can you be a good speaker? If you're sick, you can
Yeah.
think well. You can organize thoughts. If you cough a lot, if you have COVID, how can you express well yourself? I think that's one that can hinder me. That can make me, unmotivated to speak. So I do not force myself if I'm sick.
So there's a last question, a follow up the question while ago. What if we weren't able to notice that you made a mistake
Hmm.
while speaking in public, and only realized it when you watch the video of you speak?
Um, I would like to flesh out what you mean by mistake here. Is this a huge deal? Is it and did you talk about something which is not founded on truth? Is this what you mean? Or just a slip of the tongue? Because if it's just a slip of the tongue, let's say you mispronounce a word, let's say you forgot a word, let's say you made a blunder or a gaffe in terms of the verb tenses, for example, in terms of the pronunciation, in terms of the intonation, these are negligible things. So do not think that these technical errors could destroy your credibility as a public speaker. So if it's just about technical aspects like grammar, for example, shrug it off. Everyone commits mistakes. Well, even native speakers who are public speakers also, produce gaps and mistakes in public speaking in terms of technicalities. But if this mistake is about an idea, a belief that is founded on lie, and that's a big deal. That is something that needs your admission on public. You need to say, you need to say sorry for that because that's a big deal. But then again, if it's just a grammar blunder, shrug it off. Shrug it off, sir. Move on.
Thank you, sir. So I think this is all from the participants. If anyone have any question, we are giving you only 30 seconds, because after 30 seconds we will end this webinar. I repeat my instructions. We have sent the feedback form link already, and I am sending it again last time. Those who will fill out this feedback form will get the certificate. Those who will not fill out this feedback form will not get the certificate. And to make sure about your certificate, you all have to subscribe our channel, because our media team will look at you and inspect that whether you have subscribed or not. If you haven't, then you might feel difficulty or any error while getting certificate. And other thing is that we have selected Rajni Bora and Innocent Dabanj as the guest of our next webinar. So both are requested to contact us on WhatsApp or the email or on the Facebook for coming live with us in the next webinar. Sir, I think no one has posted any comment or the question yet. So this was all from today, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for your very, very valuable information, worthy presentation, and the most valuable time which you have given to us. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Universal Webinars, for having me. And thank you
Thank,
everyone for your attendance, guys. Thank you. Have a nice
thank you,
day.
sir. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye.
So all of you have 2 minutes to 3 minutes to get the feedback form link, and after that you all will we will end the webinar. This is the feedback form link. Subscribe our channel, and I repeat that Mr. Innocent Dabanj and Rajni Bora has got the opportunity to be guest in our next webinars. So they are requested to join us, or sorry, to contact us. There were two other girls which we selected, but their names are just disappeared, and they just commented in the start of webinar but are not available in the last. So that's why I request you all to remain with us till the last. And the other one is Miss Reno Montera. Miss Reno Montera. This is the question of Miss Reno Montera, I think. So this girl has also to contact us, because she is also selected as a speaker. Oh, sorry, the guest. And the fourth one is Miss Nadia Memon. I think Nadia or Nabia Memon was there. Uh, just give me a second to check her comment on screen. Yes, here is it. This girl, Miss Nabia Memon, you have to also contact us. Miss Nabia Memon and Rajni Bora, Innocent Dambanj, and the one which I just say, Miss Reno. So thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you to join us here. Thank you from the Universal Webinar and the whole team. Hope we will have you again soon. I repeat the instructions. If you haven't subscribed our YouTube channel, subscribe it, because you might feel difficulty in getting certificate if you haven't subscribed it. And the feedback form link is sent to you already. Copy it and paste it anywhere, because when I will end this broadcast, this link will be disappeared. So do not ask again in the comments or the emails or the messages that where is the feedback form link. I am sending it, copy it, because it will be disappear when I will end this broadcast. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Have a good day. Take care. Thank you.